Good morning. A Christian nurse's legal complaint leads to the nation's first gender detransition clinic.
Whistleblowers never actually know if the sacrifices that they've made will be worth something.
And we talked to families in the path of the Spokane wildfires. Also, water rights disputes over new sections of the border wall. And the rise of AI-generated music.
The urgency for me is to quickly regulate it and find a means to protect human artists.
And world commentator Bethel McGrew on the investigation that shut down an organ donation program.
It's Tuesday, August 11th. This is The World and Everything in It. From listener-supported World Radio, I'm Myrna Brown.
And I'm Mary Reichard. Good morning.
Up next, Kent Covington with today's news.
President Trump responded Monday to Iran's latest demands that the U.S. pay reparations or damages as part of any peace deal that fully reopens the Strait of Hormuz.
They asked for money for the damage that we've done. I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period.
He mentioned attacks against U.S. troops, both direct and by way of proxy groups going back decades.
And maybe damages for the 52,000 protesters over the last 4 months that were killed in Iran. We think their families should get damages. So if there's damages to be paid, I think Iran should pay those damages.
Tehran on Sunday also demanded that the U.S. lift its blockade of Iranian ports, withdraw its forces, and drop sanctions before Iran will stop obstructing traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump also said yesterday that a possible major new U.S. military offensive against Iran that he says has been on the drawing board for more than a week is still on the table. The president made those remarks from the Oval Office after signing an executive order that calls for spacing out childhood vaccinations. World's Harrison Waters reports now from Washington.
President Trump wants Health and Human Services to change its recommendations. His order says the combined measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine should eventually be split into 3 separate shots. And it calls for childhood vaccines to be given at separate visits when possible.
At 1 year, you should have 5 separate visits for vaccines rather than getting them all in the same day.
HHS has also encouraged trimming the number of recommended vaccines from 18 to 11 and giving parents discretion for timing of those shots. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the move will bring the U.S. into alignment with many European countries.
Most other countries achieve high vaccination rates through education, informed consent, and public trust rather than mandates.
A federal court blocked Secretary Kennedy from changing the vaccine schedule earlier this year. President Trump's order also directs the Justice Department to challenge state vaccine laws that it says wrongly deny religious or medical exemptions. Critics say the move could make more parents hesitant to vaccinate their children. Reporting for World, I'm Harrison Waters in Washington.
In Colombia, President Abelardo de la Espriella says the first priority is rescuing the people who are still trapped under the rubble. That after a powerful earthquake that killed well over 100 people. The 7.4 magnitude quake struck the South American nation on Monday, with the epicenter about 200 miles west of Bogota, but it was felt far and wide. It caused major damage in places like the western city of Cali.
It seemed like it was never going to end. Thank God, we're okay now that it stopped. But it lasted a very long time, and it was very, very strong. Everything started falling.
In the country's 2 biggest cities, Bogota and Medellin, high-rise buildings swayed and trembled, prompting evacuations. The U.S. government says it is standing by to provide help with rescue and relief efforts as needed. Ukraine continues to strike energy targets in Russia after years of Russian attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. World's Benjamin Eicher has that story.
Ukrainian drones hit an oil refining city in Russia, about 750 miles from Ukraine. Russian officials claim that at least 13 people died, with more than 70 injured. Ukraine's military says it hit one of Russia's biggest refineries. Kyiv's forces target Russian oil sites almost daily now, taking aim at the heart of the Russian economy, several years into Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky says the point is to force Moscow to the bargaining table. Ukraine wants a ceasefire along the current front lines first, and then a peace deal. But Russia said Monday it won't stop shooting until Ukraine gives up on joining NATO, limits its army, and hands over 4 regions, including land that Russian troops don't hold. Russian strikes killed 13 people in Ukraine on Sunday. For World, I'm Benjamin Eicher.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing back against a 15-point Gaza disarmament plan announced by President Trump's Board of Peace. Netanyahu says Israel will not agree to withdraw its forces from Gaza unless the Hamas terror group in Gaza completely disarms first. And some Israeli residents remain skeptical about the plan. Bruce Schoenfeld lives in Tel Aviv.
It sounds very nice, but it's a joke. It's clear that Hamas won't disarm, and if Hamas doesn't disarm, Israel is not going anywhere.
U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz remarked on Monday.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has some issue with some of this sequencing. This is about sequencing and timing, what they give up in exchange for when he withdraws the IDF. But
Waltz added that Hamas will be disarmed one way or the other. Either Hamas lays down its arms or Israeli forces will disarm the terror group by force. I'm Kent Covington, and coming up, we talk to families whose homes were in the path of the Spokane, Washington wildfires. Plus, disputes over water rights near the border wall. We'll have a report from New Mexico. This is The World and Everything in It.
It's Tuesday, the 11th of August. You're listening to World Radio, and we're so glad to have you along today. Good morning. I'm Myrna Brown.
And I'm Mary Reichard. First up on The World and Everything in It, the cost of telling the truth. Last week, Texas Children's Hospital finalized a settlement with federal and state authorities over sex-rejecting gender treatments. The settlement resolves fraud claims raised by a nurse, Vanessa Sivadge.
We shared Sivadge's story on Double Take just last month. She's a Christian who took a job at Texas Children's in 2022.
I did not realize when I accepted the job that there was a fully functional gender clinic at my workplace.
Sivadge soon noticed the hospital was listing children on their charts according to their preferred gender, not their biological sex, that it was misdiagnosing and prescribing treatments according to this false information, and then it was charging Medicaid.
Immediately some red flags go off, and I just think, well, it's not just that the hospital has been transitioning kids in secret and hiding what they're doing, but now they're billing it to Texas taxpayers.
Once she put it all together, she filed a whistleblower lawsuit. Sivadge can now talk publicly about her role in forcing the settlement and what's next for her. Double Take host Les Sillers caught up with her yesterday.
What happened last week with your case?
Yeah. Well, last week was the official announcement of 2 years of behind-the-scenes negotiation and litigation, and lots of prayers and lots of tears, ultimately. It was announced that Texas Children's Hospital and myself have officially settled for $10 million, in addition to the establishment of America's first detransition clinic, the permanent firing and revoking of privileges of 5 physicians, and a series of ethics and compliance requirements that require the hospital to ensure that none of the terms of the settlement are violated. And so, in addition to this, the hospital is permanently removing the statements in which they labeled me a disgruntled employee and a liar, and they are issuing a new and superseding statement in which they admitted that they harmed children through their sex-rejecting procedures, and that they have since then stopped those procedures permanently.
It's an absolutely stunning reversal. What effect do you think this will have on the national conversation, the national debate about transgenderism itself?
Well, this is a watershed moment because the Department of Justice is going to use this case as a blueprint for all other pending cases happening across the country.
Did you ever ask yourself, is this worth it? Should I keep going?
Yes, I did. Man, I can't tell you how many times I asked myself that because, whistleblowers never actually know if the sacrifices that they've made will be worth something, if there will be a resolution, if there will be justice at the end of that. And it's a very scary thing.
Why did you think it was important to keep going?
I knew that this was something that God had called me to do. I knew that he had specifically placed this in front of me. And that's a very scary thing because it was a secret for 2 years that I was a government witness, that I was the key TAM relator in this False Claims Act case. Couldn't tell my closest family or friends that I was collaborating with the federal government in an investigation against the largest children's hospital in America. That is just a heavy mental and psychological and emotional weight that I'll never be able to explain to someone what that does to you and how just the level of stress that puts you under.
I read over the documents, and as a relator, you are entitled to about $2 million of that $10 million settlement. That's what I read in there.
When I started this journey 2 years ago, my motivations were incredibly well defined. My goal was to, in alignment with my faith, expose what was evil and unrighteous and destroying our children. And so that's why I did what I did. Very thankful for the whistleblower compensation portion. No amount of money could possibly make up for what I have been through is the truth. But I don't want to say that and discourage or dissuade other people from coming forward themselves. But there are scars that will remain. And those scars don't go away just because there's some compensation and some financial reward at the end.
Okay. And so what are you going to do now?
I mean, I am thrilled to lead Protecting Texas Children, as you know, so that keeps me very busy. But on a practical level, we are going on a vacation in a couple of weeks. And so I'm very, very excited to have some relaxation coming soon. I've lived holding my breath for the last 2 years. I've lived in uncertainty. And now I feel like I can finally take an exhale, a deep sigh of relief. My name is finally cleared. The hospital has admitted that they lied. And I feel like I've been vindicated. I feel like I was right. And it was all worth it.
If you missed hearing Vanessa Sivadge's Double Take story when it originally aired, you can find it on the July 18th and July 25th episodes of The World and Everything in It. Coming up next on The World and Everything in It, the wildfires tearing through eastern Washington. Since August 1st, 3 fires have swept across the Spokane area, burning 10,000 acres and destroying some 900 structures. So far, no deaths reported.
Nearly 2,000 firefighters have come from across the country to battle the flames. Amid the devastation, neighbors are stepping up to help neighbors. World's Emma Eicher went to Spokane and has the story.
North of Spokane, 3 families packed into one 4-bedroom home. Molly and Eric Davis were playing host.
Constantly checking and making sure everybody's got what they need and entertained and, a lot of people in one house. So.
Molly's sister, Leela Kerrigan, her family, and Eric's parents joined them just over a week ago. That made for a total of 16 in the house, including 10 kids. Kerrigan says her family of 7 was camping and didn't have cell service when the wildfire evacuation orders went out on August 1st.
Yep, Sunday around noon is when we started getting back into service and had lots of phone calls and trying to figure out whether we still had a house or not.
They weren't the only ones. More than 65,000 people evacuated as 3 wildfires ravaged areas surrounding the city of Spokane. It's the most destructive wildfire in Washington state history. Kevin Hall is the chief of the Spokane Police Department. He says the department staffed up before the fire started, preparing for high heat and wind conditions.
What we didn't count on is arson, somebody who intentionally set the Old Trails fire, which was the first fire of the complex. That fire just took off, and it was incredibly fast how quickly and rapidly that fire spread.
Last week, police arrested and charged 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci with first-degree arson for allegedly sparking the Old Trails fire. That fire jumped the Spokane River and blazed through neighborhoods. Chloe Roots' family lost their home and most of their chickens.
We were right by the river, and then our house sat on a corner. Once the fire hit the neighborhood, it was probably one of the first to go.
The family of 8 went back early last week.
The only thing left standing was my dad's barbecue. There was 1 chicken still alive, shockingly. We have no idea how. And the basketball hoop was untouched. Everything else was gone.
Here's Chloe's mother, Molly.
I'm just looking for meaning in this and direction from the Lord and what direction to go next. How do we help our family heal, and what is his purpose for us in our community, in our neighborhood?
The family is figuring out what comes next from an Airbnb. Local churches have stepped in to help fire victims. Grace Christian Fellowship in North Spokane is serving as a temporary facility for evacuated elderly dementia patients. Here's Pastor Dave Farley.
There's about 40 people that are in our facility. A lot of them are in wheelchairs that have been here for going on 5 or 6 days with nurses and technicians. And then we housed first responders, firefighters, drone pilots that needed a place to stay.
Farley says multiple congregations are supplying food, money, and lodging until evacuees can return home. Chief of Police Kevin Hall is optimistic that crews will fully corral the wildfires soon.
This type of coordinated fire operation is truly impressive to see. Barring in another wind event, we're going to see full containment within a week to 10 days. But quite frankly, it looks like it'll happen faster than that.
On Sunday, authorities downgraded most Level 3 evacuation orders. Now at an Airbnb, the Kerrigan family is still waiting to go home. Their house survived the fires, and they have the all clear to return once cleaning crews make it safe to live in again. At the crowded Davis home last week, Leela recalled the moments when she had some time to meditate on Scripture.
And it was nice to just be reminded on God's steadfast love in all of this, no matter what. It was somewhere in James, it's talking about scorching heat and all this stuff. I'm like, well, that hits a little bit differently for me, but the truth is still the truth. So it's just more day to day instead of a bigger picture right now.
Many other residents still don't know whether they have homes to return to. Here's Pastor Farley again.
The most important thing is to pray that those people would somehow sense the nearness and presence of God in the midst of all the suffering. It's going to take a long time for Spokane to recover from this.
Reporting for World, I'm Emma Eicher in Spokane, Washington.
Additional support comes from Boyce College, where students learn to think biblically and discern truth in a confusing world. Christ-centered degrees grounded in Scripture. BoyceCollege.com. From World Watch, a 10-minute video news broadcast that the whole family can agree on. Free for the first 7 days. worldwatch.news/podcast. And from Asbury Online, helping adults finish what they started through flexible Christ-centered online bachelor's degrees. asbury.edu/online.
Up next, new disagreements over the border wall with Mexico. Last week, the New Mexico office of the state engineer threatened to fine 2 contractors over what they say are unauthorized wells at the border.
The Trump administration restarted construction on the wall last year, and now some ranchers there are torn. They want the protection, but they don't like how some contractors are operating. World's Mary Muncy reports.
Russell Johnson drives the desert road alongside new sections of the steel border wall. His ranch runs along the border for more than 8 miles in Luna County, New Mexico.
We were fortunate enough under Trump's first administration to get a lot of the first primary wall. They got all but about 3/4 of a mile of wall built on our ranch.
Crews closed the gap in the primary wall earlier this summer and then started on the next section, a secondary wall that runs parallel to the first. But Johnson and other ranchers say contractors are not going through the proper channels to get water for concrete, and that threatens their livestock. Contractors have dug wells every 5 miles along the border. Most of them sit within a federally owned easement, but are an access point to an aquifer that supplies water to several cities and thousands of people.
We've got shallow wells pumping 3 to 7 gallons a minute, and you're wanting to drill a well 720 feet deep, producing 300 gallons a minute. It's absolutely going to impair existing water rights.
If the wells draw down the aquifer, the county's ranchers worry they won't be able to water their cattle. If that happens, Johnson says it would take too long and cost too much to haul enough water to the ranch.
I make my living out of raising livestock, and if I have to sell off the herd, I don't have a business, so it will put me out of business.
So in June, he joined over 150 other people in asking the Office of the State Engineer to stop the contractors. At the time, representatives said there was nothing they could do that would be fast enough to protect the aquifer. Then last week, the office issued a notice of violation against the 2 drilling companies, saying they performed unauthorized well drilling in protected underground water basins without state permits. They imposed fines for every day the wells were not plugged. And by the end of last week, someone had removed the pumps and sealed the wells. That work could be reversed pretty easily, but
I'm hoping this is an indication that they're not going to pump it.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, told World that the wells supply water for mixing concrete, suppressing dust, and building roads. The agency says it's told the contractors to pause installation while they work with the state to develop a strategy. World reached out to the contractors involved, but did not hear back. Johnson has spent years advocating for the border wall, but this round of construction has been a pain. On top of the dispute over the wells, he says contractors have also cleared land for the wall beyond their easement. He still supports the wall, but questions the need for that second parallel section of the wall. He says the first part largely stopped illegal crossings.
There's still people that cross, but it was to the point where you would drive out on the ranch and see people every time you went out.
Several miles west, Lawrence Hertz's ranch runs along the border for 28 miles. He doesn't think the wells would have an outsized impact if they're only used for border construction. And he says the current problems are nothing compared to the years of cattle and equipment theft he's experienced.
I would appreciate it if the federal government would follow the rules of the state of New Mexico that we've all followed and been held to for all the years. At the same time I say that, it is the federal government. They're going to do what they're going to do.
CBP says the second wall won't be everywhere, and that parts of the new construction is building the smart wall. That includes lights, cameras, and detection technology. For now, Johnson is glad that the contractors are being forced through the proper channels. But he says he wants the wells permanently plugged, or for the contractors to pay for water rights or permits.
Ranching is a full-time job, but fighting for the ability to ranch is a full-time job in itself.
The contractors have 30 days to submit a plan for properly sealing the wells. For now, construction on the wall continues without them. Reporting for World, I'm Mary Muncy in Luna County, New Mexico.
A recently returned library book on Greek antiquities has given Kiama, Australia, a history lesson that hits a little closer to home.
You could only borrow one book at a time unless you could prove that there were other members in the family that were able to read.
That's library manager Michelle Hudson. Another rule, no borrowing while intoxicated. The 150-year-old book turned up during a historic home renovation, found bricked into a fireplace. The current homeowner does not know why it didn't get returned, but it won't be lent out again.
We don't want to wait another 150 years for this book to be returned.
The late fee would now run about $20,000, but without knowing the borrower, that's ancient history too. It's the world and everything in it. Today is Tuesday, August 11th. Thank you for turning to World Radio to help start your day. Good morning. I'm Mary Reichard.
And I'm Myrna Brown. Coming next on The World and Everything in It, labeling AI music. AI-generated songs now account for about a third of all new music uploaded to Apple Music, and it's getting harder to tell the difference between human-made music and AI. Last month, 8 groups representing the recording industry announced plans to label any song made with or by AI. The labels will look a bit like parental advisory warnings, but drawing the line isn't so easy. Many musicians have used AI tools in the production process for years.
So when does AI-assisted music become AI-generated music? Many listeners want fair warning to tell the difference. So let's say you want to create a song in the style of Bach. But maybe you cannot write music, or you don't have an orchestra to perform your piece. With AI music generators, users can make music in minutes. No need for a live orchestra. Pretty convincing, right? Thanks to sophisticated tools like Suno, AI-generated songs have flooded into streaming platforms.
You've been losing sleep, crying in the dark.
The AI artist known as Xenia Monet has nearly 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify alone. A person named Talisha Nikki Jones created Monet.
You've done all you can, now here's the key. Peace starts when you set it free.
Most consumers say they're not interested in AI music, but millions of people are listening to songs like this. That's probably because it's hard to tell the difference. James Gutierrez teaches music at Northeastern University. He says the giveaway with early AI music was that it sounded pretty grainy. Now, it lacks of repetition.
When a real composer does this, they have a theme and a counter theme or a motif interplay throughout the song. If you take any snippet of an AI-generated song, it's unlikely to give you any material that repeats again later in the song, any unique material.
AI struggles to imitate this pattern because repetition requires a lot of computational power. That leaves the songs with a tendency to sound very generic.
Now, a singer's melody can repeat. It can have a chorus and a verse and a chorus, and the verse comes back with the same melody again. But for what the instrumentation is doing, it would be harder for that to have like an undercurrent melody that repeats or motif that repeats.
But that's just today's giveaway. In the future, the software will probably get better at mimicry. Music streaming platform Deezer released a survey that found about 97% of listeners already can't tell if they're listening to music generated by AI. But Gutierrez says people do want to know what they're listening to.
I get the impression that's a majority of the average music consumers. They do care about the human element. I think they're going to avoid AI-generated music if it's labeled. And those who aren't avoiding it are more likely going to be interested in it because it's AI.
The proposed solution, labeling every song made with the help of AI, might be easier said than done. Drew Thurlow is a former executive at Pandora Streaming and a current adjunct professor of music and innovation at Berklee College of Music. He says it's not at all controversial for mainstream artists to tweak their music with AI.
Most music, going back at least 10 years, has some sort of AI involvement in it. Most principally on the last phase of what makes a recording sound good, which is called mastering, the cherry on top of the production process. It's a process by which you kind of blend the music in a way with frequencies to make it sound all cohesive. But engineers have been using machine learning models in that process for a long time.
Music producer Aaron Schaefer-Hayes says artists also use AI to tweak how instruments sound. In his opinion, that's not the problem.
I think that if you're using AI to write your song, to write your lyrics, yeah, absolutely, that should be labeled.
Schaefer-Hayes thinks pushing back looks like more than notifying listeners.
They need to remove the incentive of uploading so much AI music. And by that, it means that they need to demonetize it. If you upload AI music to these streaming services, they don't generate any money.
Schaefer-Hayes doesn't think AI-generated songs will go away anytime soon, and he doesn't necessarily think they should.
The urgency for me isn't to stomp it out, isn't to completely eradicate AI music. It's to quickly regulate it and find a means to protect human artists.
Good morning. This is The World and Everything in It from listener-supported World Radio. I'm Myrna Brown.
And I'm Mary Reichard. The Department of Health and Human Services has started the process of decertifying an organ procurement organization operating in parts of 4 states. It said safety failures by Network for Hope left both potential organ donors and transplant recipients at risk. Here's world commentator Bethel McGrew on a decision HHS says is about protecting the sanctity of life.
Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made the shocking announcement last Wednesday at a press conference in Lexington, Kentucky. The decision to shut down the nonprofit was made after an extensive federal investigation by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Health Resources and Services Administration. They uncovered horrifying reports of doctors moving to harvest organs from patients who still showed signs of life. And worse, these failures persisted even after repeated warnings and opportunities to reform.
We found patients placed on the organ donation pathway who should have never been there. We found cases where the donation process continued despite signs that patients were not appropriate organ donors. We found repeated failures in clinical judgment, oversight, and patient safety.
For Kentucky man T.J. Hoover, that negligence was almost lethal. Unbeknownst to his family, he had put himself on the state's potential donor list. After suffering a drug overdose and heart attack in 2021, he was declared brain dead. Then, the unthinkable happened.
During that honor walk, his eyes were open. He was tracking me, and they told me it was just reflexes. Then during the heart cath, he was thrashing, crying, and grabbing the doctor's hands to stop him. Even after those signs, the organ procurement process continued until the physician refused to proceed.
That was TJ's sister and sole caregiver, Donna Rohrer, who at the time declined to pursue legal action against the nonprofit. But his case inspired surgical preservation coordinator Nikki Martin to speak out, even at the cost of her job.
And we are questioning, why was TJ waking up and no one said anything? We were questioning everything, and we were told at that point what we did was right. We did what the donor wanted. We did what the family wanted. We did everything per protocol, and that's it.
Responding to the HHS decision, Network for Hope CEO Barry Massa has issued a statement denying any abuses and announcing plans to appeal. He insisted that, quote, NFH is compliant with all organ procurement and transplantation policies, unquote. He also pointed to their role in drafting Kentucky's new pause in procedure process, which now requires that all organ harvesting procedures stop if there is any sign of life or any uncertainty about a patient's neurological status. But the network's record of negligence speaks for itself, and people like TJ and Donna must live with the consequences.
He has nightmares. He struggles remembering things. And he asked me, sis, why did they want to kill me? I don't have an answer for him. I'm just his sister. But I know what I saw.
For World, I'm Bethel McGrew.
Tomorrow, it's Washington Wednesday with Hunter Baker, and how kids in rural areas are getting on board with competitive chess. That and more tomorrow. I'm Mary Reichard.
And I'm Myrna Brown. The world and everything in it comes to you from World Radio. World's mission is biblically objective journalism that informs, educates, and inspires. The Bible says, I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. He is ever lending generously, and his children become a blessing. Verses 25 and 26 of Psalm 37. Go now in grace and peace.